your screen or is Dan doing it?
Oh,
You gotta mute yours.
Brian is
Hey
on,
there,
and
hi,
Lori.
it's Lori.
Oh,
You know what?
I am in the process of opening up my tablet.
But maybe Dan should.
you got 2 minutes figured out, so.
All right, Brian Kaplan.
I have it pulled up, the presentation pulled up on my screen,
Yes,
but someone has
we-
to let me share the screen.
Okay.
Brian Kaplan, can we hear you, please?
Should I email Dan?
Dan Johnson, I'm just letting you know that Mary Lynn will be sharing her screen for her presentation.
Okay. And we are live on YouTube now as well.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody on YouTube.
Brian Kaplan, could you say something so we're sure we can hear you?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. All right. We have 2 minutes. Hello, Terry.
Hello.
Terry, before we start, did I hear that Deerfield is going to be totally virtual?
To start,
To start, well, yeah.
yeah, phased in. They had a 7-hour board meeting yesterday. It
And
ended at 1:30 in the morning.
that's what I heard. Cal reported it to me this morning at 4:30 in the morning. He knew about it.
It's already in presentation mode, beautiful. Okay. Let's get their dog.
So just confirm everybody can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm still. All right.
All right, in 1 minute, we'll get started because I know everybody is on and all the technology issues have been solved. And we called the meeting for 6 o'clock, not 5:59.
Sounds good. We're ready to go. It's not. No,
Maybe, Barney, we could take a moment of silence for Nathan doing his senior year at home because it was impossible to end junior year. If we could all just say a little prayer for me, I'd appreciate it. For me and all the kids with seniors that are unmotivated as it is.
On that happy note, I will call to order the regular board meeting of the Park District of Highland Park on Tuesday, July 28, 2020 at 6 o'clock p.m. Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Here,
Commissioner Flor Swicekoff,
Here,
Vice President Kaplan,
Here.
President Ruttenberg.
I am here. We'll start out with, do any of the commissioners or their executive director have any additions to the agenda?
No.
Hearing none. Brian Romes, has anyone from the public submitted any email to be read aloud for public content?
I have not received any.
Thank you. So we can move on and go to the treasurer's report.
Okay, good evening. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Okay.
We're hearing you.
Okay, perfect. All right, let me make sure. Okay, and can you see my screen?
With the dancing numbers, yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
beautiful. Okay. So this is our updated financial forecast due to COVID-19, which we originally shared with the Finance Committee on July 15th. Okay, and as we have been doing at all of our YouTube meetings, we have a special disclaimer just to remind people that given the current pandemic environment, it is while we try our hardest to forecast and predict as accurately as we can, things can change on a dime tomorrow. So we just want to alert you of that. Now, we have changed the slide deck just a little based on input from the board at the Finance Committee meeting. And so really what all the following slides are going to show to you is that we are projecting to be doing okay. We have, per board policy, we need to have a 25% reserve at the end of the year. And as you can see, that comes out to almost $4.7 million in reserves. Originally, when we budgeted, the original budget showed that at year end, we'd have about $12 million of cash on hand. And right now, with our current projections, we're also projecting that we should end up the year with about $12 million of reserves. So we are looking good based on all the projections that we are about to show you. Okay, the first chart, which we saw last month, and we'll just keep updating this month after month. If you recall, we have the solid green and red lines, which are original budgeted numbers. And originally we were budgeting in our operating funds, the general and recreation funds, that we would end up with a surplus of roughly $3 million at the end of the year. When COVID hit, we were asked to run new projections at the end of May, and those are the red and green lines with dots on them. So this is our new projected revenue line, our new projected expense line. And so with the effects of COVID, that brings down our expected surplus at the end of the year to about $1.9 million. And then you can see the difference between the original budget and the new projections here. Now, what we also want to draw your attention to is that we had made the projections based on worst case scenario. What we are doing also as of May 31st on the dashed line is showing our actual numbers. You can see that our actual revenues are above our projected revenues, and our actual expenses, the red dashed line, is falling below the red dotted line, which means our expenses are coming in less than what we projected. Revenues are coming in more than what we're projected, and that gives us this difference up here of our actual versus projected. We're up about $2 million as of June 30th. So that is a good sign, but it's also, I would say, somewhat anticipated because, again, we had used worst case scenario numbers. Moving on, we're going to give you a couple of updates on the recreation fund. The golf course and the driving range are meeting budget, and tennis and golf are both exceeding the net revenue projections. Outdoor athletics and in-person programming are exceeding net revenue projections. Tennis and golf camps are expected to meet projected and budgeted revenues. Recreation camp is not expected to meet projected net revenues. Park ambassadors are expected to exceed our expense projections. Non-resident lakefront revenue is expected to exceed projections. Expenses are coming in below projections due to low payroll and no dredging. And finally, recreation net revenues are not expected to meet projections. And so when we chart this out, this chart is just of the recreation fund. It includes no tax revenue, includes no year-end transfers. And so this is set up just like the other chart. Solid green is the original budgeted revenue. Solid red is the original budgeted expense. And so originally we budgeted nearly $2.5 million of a net loss in the recreation fund. Again, we went back at May 31st and we came up with new projections based on COVID. That is on this dotted line. This is our expense line. This is our revenue line. And so we show a greater year-end deficit in the recreation fund of about $3.7 million. And that difference is shown here. So we are going to be adversely affected due to COVID by about an additional $1.3 million. That's based on projections, which was a worst case scenario. However, we can go back and look at the dashed line, just like we did on the operating fund chart, and see our green dashed line is our actual revenues for the recreation fund. And we can see our red dashed line is our actual expenses for the recreation fund. Profits are above what our projections were and expenses were below, which is what we would expect because these, again, were worst case scenarios, so we are doing better. And we are doing better to the tune of $500,000 as of June 30th. Now, the next chart we're going to look at is an answer to the question of what would happen if we regress, restore Illinois phases. So if we go back to a phase 3, or if a complete stay-at-home order happens this fall. And these are the worst case scenarios that we used in coming up with these scenarios. We anticipate a full closure starting the week of Thanksgiving through January 2nd. The only revenue that we would collect during this time frame would be taxes. We use June expenses for our expense number in December, as well as in our equation for figuring out the part of November we would be closed. And that's because our June expenses for the year are our lowest thus far, except for January, which was due to timing differences. June expenses were the lowest so far because if you keep in mind, during the year, we're more on a cash basis. And so even though we closed down in the middle of March, it takes some time for bills for March and April to hit the books and post. And so we saw the greatest effect of our reduced staffing, reduced utilities and operating expenses really came through in June. And so using those for December makes the most sense because December is a fully accrued month. And so even if some of those bills come in after December, they would go back to December. And therefore, again, that's how we went with the June expenses. The refunds for fall session 2 programming would occur in this scenario. At the same time, staff is preparing turnkey solutions for missed days, whether it be phase 3 or stay-at-home order. And then finally, we would anticipate no transfers under this scenario. And so here's what we would look like. Again, we have the original revenue, budget revenue in green, budget expenses in red, showing the same surplus of $3 million. And then what we have down here is our new projections at May 31st. The dotted line is our new revenues with the COVID, and what you can see and the revenues here, when you go November to December, it's really a flat line for revenues. And that's because we said we are anticipating no revenues except for taxes, and we do get very little coming in as far as tax revenue in November and December. Also, then if you look at the new projected line for expenses with a COVID hit in November, you can see that the arch of this line is more flattened than what we had in the original budgeted expense line. And so if you look at the difference down here between the budget and the projections with the COVID return, it shows us with a surplus of about $1.5 million less than the original budget. If you take it one step further, and if we recall what was on the former slide with the operating funds, we had shown a hurt to our surplus of about 1.2 million. So basically this says that the COVID would cost us roughly another $300,000. Okay, next we're going to look at.
I'm sorry, a simple question. I'm sorry to interrupt. What is the percentage of $300,000 is what percentage of our total budget?
Of our total budget? Well, it's about 20 million. It's small. Let me see off the top of my head here, 300,000 by 20 million. Hold on, we're pulling out our calculator. It's pretty small.
3%?
1.5%.
1.5%. Okay. All right. I just asked that question so that everybody can appreciate the significance of the difference is 1.5%.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Now we'll look at payroll. If you recall, we had a budget in payroll of roughly $10 million, which is depicted by this green line. Then we went back on May 31st and did new projections. Our new projected payroll for the year was going to be about $7.5 million, which showed a savings based on our salary freezes, furloughs, no new hires of about $2.5 million in the budget. If you recall, this is also a worst case scenario line. And so then we started plotting what is really happening, which is this yellow line. And you can see that the yellow line is doing even better than, of course, the blue line projection. And so if you look at where we actually are versus projections, you can see that we have saved roughly another $250,000 as of June 30th in payroll. And that's all I have for this first half of the presentation. Does anyone have any questions on any of the charts or data?
Are you going to go around, Barney?
Yes, let's start with Terry.
Okay, I just have a really quick, in the scenario in which there is no revenue from Thanksgiving to the end of the year, do we take into account any type of layoffs, furloughs, or anything like that into that number?
So with the expenses, because we used our June figure of expenses, that would be where we were at our lowest staffing level. So if we would follow through with the same sorts of, requiring people to take furlough days, I would actually anticipate that expenses could possibly be even less because a lot of people have eaten through their vacation days. So I think we would have more staff having to take unpaid time off from December.
I understand.
So it may even be less than the June number we put in there.
Got it. Thank you.
Al?
So we spent a lot of time going over these charts and these figures at the Finance Committee a couple weeks ago. I think it's very helpful to do it in this format. I think that, as we continue as we continue through this process of dealing with the COVID and the unknowns coming forward, I think, having in this format, updating us regularly on this will be very helpful so we can keep a close tabs on the financial health of the district. The only question I have with regard to this is, are you going to, is in the second half of the presentation going to talk about your conclusions, or is this a good time to ask for your conclusions?
This is a good time to ask for conclusions, but really, because I know you said you'd like to see the last page of the book first. So that's
yes.
The effects of all of this on our cash flow. And that is, really at the end of the year, at the end of the day, we need to make sure we have enough cash on hand to run the district. We need to make sure we have enough cash to pay our debt certificate obligations in December, which, they come due in December. So all of this really feeds into that first slide of cash flow saying that we think we are going to be fine.
So in summary, so it sounds like from a financial, even under the worst case scenario, the financial health of the district is sound. And again, this is just for this one fund, the operations, the general and the recreation fund. Obviously, the capital fund's a different issue. We can read. I guess we're going to review that at another time or an upcoming Finance Committee meeting. But I think it's important to know both for the board and the community is that we're keeping an eye on this, and that as we're projecting, even on the worst case scenarios, that the district will be able to meet its obligations.
Yeah. Agreed. I think, it's very hard, when we talk about this COVID return, is it going to come back? When is it going to come back? Will it not come back? And, are we going to be completely closed, which is what this model is really saying. But, the time frame we pick, there's just so many things. And that's why really there's a disclaimer at the beginning of this presentation, because no one has a crystal ball and we don't know what's going to happen in relation to COVID.
Lori?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Brian Kaplan? While Brian finds the unmute button, why don't we move on?
Oh, okay. All right. So the second part of the presentation. Brian's okay? Okay. So the second part of our presentation is just our usual treasurer's report that we do, and looking at how our funds are doing on a district-wide basis, actual versus budget. Oh yeah, I can stop share. Sorry. Okay. So in the special recreation fund, We are showing a favorable variance, and that has to do with timing of tax receipts, June versus July, as well as our contractual services payment for the NSSRA building.
Is there, I'm sorry, is there a slide that we're supposed to see?
Well, this was in your board packet. This is. the
Oh, okay, okay. I mean, it just says technology department right now.
Do you want?
No, I didn't know if you had a slide or not that you were saying, that's all.
No, this is the same report we go over every month that it looks like an Excel spreadsheet with explanations on it. But we can pull it up next month. Okay.
We're good, we're good. I just was saying, because I know we had some problems logging in earlier. I just wanted to, so I thought I'd ask if we're supposed to see a slide, and the answer is no. So now we can move on. Okay.
Okay, very good. Capital projects are showing favorable variance again because we have delayed projects or eliminated projects due to COVID-19 and other factors. The general corporate fund is also showing a favorable variance from budget, and that's due to the reduced payroll we just looked at, reduced expenses during COVID due to COVID closing, and timing difference in health insurance payments. We also have another $500,000 sitting in miscellaneous income for 2 of our grants receivable that we had been awarded. The debt service fund is also showing a favorable variance. Again, that's due to timing differences of tax receipts. And then just keep in mind whatever favorable variance we have in there at year end, we use to help make the debt certificate payments. And then finally, the recreation fund is showing an unfavorable variance from budget, and that's largely due to closure related to COVID-19. Does anyone have any questions on that?
No, I reviewed it. I understand it. I'm fine.
All right. If there's no other questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we'll move into the consent agenda that has items A through H. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I believe I asked for one item to be pulled.
Or you wanted to pull it, or just to have an explanation?
No, I think, well, I mean, I'm asking for a change to the resolution. So I don't know if we can do it in the context of the consent agenda or not.
I think we have to pull it and then approve it separately.
All right,
Okay.
so item F, which is a resolution 2020-11, will be removed from the consent agenda for subsequent conversation.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the revised consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. Roxanne, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yes.
President Ruttenberg.
Yes, the motion is carried. Let's then go back to resolution 2020-11, a resolution ratifying and adopting emergency regulations at Millard Beach. Brian Romes, do you want to raise the question that Cal brought up, and then we can discuss?
Sure. So it was section 5 of the resolution from the emergency order, which was the effective date and term. And as it's stated now, the resolution and regulations adopted hereby shall sunset and expire automatically upon the earlier of the seasonal closure of Millard Beach, the expiration of the disaster proclamation, or the city of Highland Park moving into phase 5. So the question was, when is seasonal closure? It's not specified in here. So that is a good question. So we need to specify that for the purpose of this, staff's recommendation is that we are specifying seasonal closure as September 22nd, which is the astronomical summer season end. And so we would recommend inserting that date as to define the season's end.
Cal, does that address your concern?
Yes, I didn't, since seasonal closure was not defined anywhere in the resolution, I just thought it was too vague. The question I have is just why did you pick the the September 22nd, the first day of fall, as the day of? Is that the actual closure of the beach, or why was that date selected?
Yeah, so the beach really never closes. So when we speak of seasons in our beaches, typically, so at Rosewood, it's the swimming season, which closes Labor Day. The beach is still open, but we usually close like the restrooms. It's very weather-based, not necessarily seasonal based. It's weather-based. So when the weather gets cold, we have to turn off the water, et cetera, and we lock the bathrooms. People can still go down there. So it's never officially closed. And then with Park Avenue, the boating season ends October 15th. But again, people can still go down there. Traditionally, our dog beach at Moraine would close around November 1st, and then we would open up the beach, the dog park at the driving range. And Millard never really had a closing date because there was nothing to shut down. So there really is no closure. So what's probably more appropriate is it just specifies that this will expire at the end of the season, the summer season, which would be when we anticipate the crowds would be much less than they are now. Since
I would just prefer to have a later date than September 22nd, because the idea is right now is we're having overcrowding. My understanding of the resolution and the intent of the resolution is that it's to address overcrowding at Millard because it's a small beach and we were having a lot of people go down there and we had issues with social distancing. I don't see why we don't just push that back until, because I still can foresee people trying to access that beach at the end of September, even the beginning of October, because we'd still have warm days. I would prefer to have some date in October, either October 15th or October 31st as the termination of this emergency order, because I think at that point, the pressure should be relieved from having so many people down at that small Millard Beach. That's what I would prefer.
Well, let's just make it October 31, 2020.
I think that, I mean, again, we can always terminate it early if we decide to. So I think that's more prudent.
All right, so is there a motion to, I guess, let's see, how do we do this? Technically, we need a motion to approve, a motion to amend the resolution, and then a motion to approve the resolution.
Yeah, I believe I'll make the motion. I move to approve the resolution by amending, and I don't have it in front of me. What section is that, Brian?
Section 5.
Section 5 is section 5, whatever, I think there's a Roman numeral there too or something. 5.
A.
5A to be amended to state and to delete seasonal end of seasonal and to replace it with October 31st, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Good. All right, Roxanne, would you please call the roll to approve the resolution as amended?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Forrest Weisskopf,
Cal, I think this was a great catch. Thank you. Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yes.
President Ruttenberg.
Yes, the motion carries. Next is the approval of conduct ordinance revision regarding First Amendment locations. Executive Director Romes to present.
Thank you, President Ruttenberg. So the Park District's conduct ordinance was last updated on July of 2015. And as it relates to the First Amendment locations under sections 2.08, 2.16, 2.25, and 2.36, staff is now recommending that specific locations for First Amendment rights be added to the conduct ordinance under Chapter 5 regarding permits and other authority. The Park District conduct ordinance was included with your board packet with the revisions highlighted in yellow. I am happy to answer any questions regarding those locations, or if you'd like, I can also go through them one by one and answer any questions that you have as well.
Brian, take a second and explain what the genesis of this ordinance was.
Sure. So obviously, First Amendment rights are protected with the right to either assemble, public assembly through different forms of whether it be meetings or parades or marches, which we've experienced recently, as well as the distribution of merchandise or charitable, religious, political activities. Obviously, there are numerous protections, and as a park district, obviously our goal is so that those First Amendment rights do not conflict with our programs that are currently happening and with the use of a certain facility. So it necessarily would not be appropriate to have some type of an activity of large capacity in the lobby of a building or in a small park that was not suitable for that crowd. So this is specifying locations so that there is less gray and more black and white, so that we can help educate those groups where it would be most appropriate to assemble. And so that's what this amendment does to the ordinance, is it identifies those locations.
All right, so let's ask the commissioners if they have any questions, starting with Cal Bernstein.
No, I have no questions.
Terry,
I'm good.
Lori,
No questions.
Brian,
I'm good, thank you.
and I have no questions. So is there a motion to approve the revisions to the conduct ordinance regarding First Amendment locations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion on the motion, starting with Cal?
No.
Terry,
No, thank you.
Lori,
No.
Brian?
Nope.
All right. Roxanne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores Wyskoff,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yep.
President Ruttenberg.
I vote yes, and the motion is carried. We'll now move to unfinished business, Centennial Ice Arena Compressor Replacement Project Progress Update. Jeff and Amalia.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. A second. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so tonight I'm going to be presenting on the compressor replacement project and our construction progress. Just as a reminder, the replacement was prompted due to the discontinuation of the R22 refrigerant that was used by the old system. That refrigerant is typical to ice rinks, but since it had been categorized as an ozone depleting substance by the US EPA, it has been phased out and prompted us to look to an upgraded system. Our construction started on May 18th, and we're targeting a construction completion on August 28th. And when I say that, it's a system handover. So at that point, our team will start making ice and we'll start painting the ice, and we expect the ice to be ready for program early September. So our project, the refrigeration scope, has 4 components: the chiller, the rink floor header, and the fluid cooler. And I think this diagram here on the right is helpful. It shows the basic construction of a ice rink, a sand and gravel base, a warm floor, and then a cold floor, which has the piping that goes throughout, which makes the ice and it's connected to these header pipes that connect to the chiller, which chills the glycol that runs through the pipe. So our system, actually, I'll go back. Our system is built on top of our existing system. It's a prefabricated rink floor that sits on top of our existing cold floor. We did that because it was most cost effective and was most suitable for our space. So here are some photos of construction progress. This is the chiller. This is a picture of the old system. Photos of removal and disposal of the existing refrigeration plant equipment, refrigerant, and systems. Crews have installed a concrete pad for the new chiller. The new chiller was delivered a few weeks ago and is now in place. And this photo is from today. Crews are welding pipes in preparation for the connection to the chiller, the pumps, and the fluid cooler. So here's a photo of the rink floor. You can see the prefabricated floor here on the left. So this is about halfway done. The floor comes in these kind of rolled cylinders, and it's just rolled out like carpet. And you can see in this photo a little bit better that it's PVC pipes. So it's just running along the entire length of the rink. Oops, sorry. All right, so here's the photos of the rink headers. So all those pipes are connected to the header pipes here. Sorry. So those pipes are inside of a trench. This photo is showing the trench that was cut, the connection into the mechanical room here, and then the frames where they poured the concrete into the trench. And then you can see the pipes being placed here in the trench, and then the PVC pipes from the ice mat, the prefabricated rink floor, connected to the header pipes here. And that's what's connected to the chiller in the mechanical room. And then this photo is from today. They're working on the trench cover. So this is the floor that sits on top of the trench and where the player seating is located. And then the fluid cooler is located outside. This photo on the left shows the removal of the existing fluid cooler, and then currently building out the new fluid cooler support structure. And we're expecting the fluid cooler, the new one, to be delivered mid-August. So in the next few weeks, we should expect crews to continue preparing pipes and pumps in advance of the fluid cooler delivery, installation of the chiller, so connecting all those pipes, pressure testing the ice mat, completing the installation of the trench cover, installing the fluid cooler, and beginning the automation scope, which is it's digitizing the controls of the system. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Let's go around. Cal?
Does this mean we won't be on thin ice anymore?
Oh, God.
I'm sorry, I have no questions.
Terry, you get extra points if you can top that.
No, I was going to do something about, I don't know.
He was going to give me the cold shoulder. That's what he was going to do.
Good one.
All right. No, I got no questions.
Lori? Lori?
Gosh, yeah, I wish I could think of something, but I mean, well, I guess we're in a hiring freeze, aren't we?
Oh, no.
No, no questions.
Brian Kaplan?
I can't top that, so no questions.
No, let's move on. Thank you. I just keep thinking about a movie about clowns. Don't ask me what that is. Thank you, Amalia and Jeff.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
All right. COVID-19 emergency operations planning update.
That's me again. So we're still living in phase 4 of the Restore Illinois plan, and obviously there is still great concern for the health and safety of our community and our staff. And also, we mentioned our finances already earlier in the meeting. continues to be a focus, as well as our strategic planning for the delivery of services. So tonight, going to take a little bit of time to really talk about three areas. One is the lakefront, the other is our recreation center, and the third would be our programming for August and this fall. So I'm going to kick it off with the lakefront. As I shared with many park board members over this past weekend, we continue to have significant issues and challenges at our lakefront property. We certainly are not in this alone. Our neighbors from Lake Forest to Winnetka are also having significant challenges with rule ordinance violations, a lack of adherence to the state guidelines for social distancing and wearing face coverings, disrespect for both staff and property. So I want to take a few minutes to summarize some of those specific challenges that we're facing and what our next steps are. I'll go a little bit beach by beach. Rosewood Beach has significantly improved from access control standpoint, as well as enforcement of rules and regulations. However, staff still continues to experience an influx of disrespectful patrons who have become verbally threatening at times, using vulgar language, raising their voices, and even threatening physical harm because of the parking lot being full, reaching maximum capacity, or because they do not have the appropriate non-resident pass. Other consistent violations include smoking, alcohol use, dogs on the beach, parking violations, climbing on rocks, swimming in the nature cove, sneaking in areas that are not accessible, such as down the sides of the ravine. Currently we have 5 park ambassadors and parking attendants who are all there at the same time, as well as 1 full-time staff and all of our lifeguards on duty from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the facility is staffed as early as 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. But as I noted, it's better, but we're still having a lot of issues. So I'm focusing first on the issues so the board is aware. Park Avenue, it remains a challenge to manage, even now that we have 2 staff members who are at that facility. Being a smaller beach than Rosewood, the capacity is only 100 people, and it did reach capacity with the very warm weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Access control is challenging due to the numerous access points, and again, staff continues to experience disrespectful patrons who yell and swear at staff regarding these safety rules. The biggest struggle for this location is enforcement of no swimming, especially, of course, on hot days. Other consistent violations include non-resident parking, especially prior to 9 a.m., launching paddle boards and kayaks on the North Beach, and entering private property on the north side of the beach. The Highland Park Police did assist us with enforcement this past weekend on Sunday afternoon, which was helpful, but again, still a challenge. Millard Beach, or Ravine Beach as it's called, although we recently did pass the emergency order that it would be for residents only, we continue to experience a variety of challenges. Well, we do turn away many non-residents by the minute, and we are having to consistently tell guests that they are not allowed to swim. Again, staff experience vulgar, disrespectful language, and a new issue is people are riding up on jet skis and boats and dropping people off on the shoreline. So this location on weekends is very challenging to manage. We only have 1 staff down there, and we did again receive some assistance from police on Sunday, and that was helpful. But the most notable violations, again, are swimming, smoking, and alcohol, amongst other things. Signage has been stolen, has been torn down. There's been vandalism of some property, such as spray painting and on the ravine and on signage. So it's a challenge. Last of all, Moraine Beach. Although Moraine Beach is a dog beach and it is closed due to the needed path repairs, now we're seeing significant increased usage at Moraine Beach. There's up to 15 to 30 people who are visiting this beach, and they're swimming, drinking, leaving debris along the shorelines, all kinds of things. So what do we do next? A few important things I want to note. We have spoken with the city regarding police assistance. In my discussions with the city manager, we really, there's not a feeling that it's appropriate to necessarily have police officers down there permanently stationed at the beach, but they certainly are there for us to support when needed, and such as this weekend coming down and helping out when we know we're going to have an extremely large crowd due to very warm weather. So we are currently receiving quotations from security guard firms. This is becoming a little bit standard in other beaches along the North Shore as well, such as in Glencoe. I know they're looking at the same services. A lot of this has to do with mid-August. We are losing a lot of our staff going back to college and things of that nature. A lot of these positions are seasonal, so we need extra help as well. We are increasing full-time presence down at the beach. We're each going to take turns with a shift down there, just because it's all we can really do at this point is kind of have all hands on deck. We want to make this service available to the public. It obviously is a treasured amenity. Some beaches in other communities have actually closed their beaches entirely to both residents and non-residents due to issues. Obviously, the city of Chicago, being the largest, has clearly closed theirs. But even in Wilmette and Winnetka, we are seeing they are closing as well. We are still working to keep ours open and doing our best. And of course, we ask our community for your cooperation. This is all for the health and safety of our community. I know it's frustrating to some residents to go down to the beach on a hot day and not be allowed access. However, these capacity limits are aligned with the DCEO state standards and guidelines and the CDC standards for safety, for social distancing. So we are doing our best. And at this point, just want to see if there's any questions from the board.
Well, let's go around. We'll start with Cal again.
Let me just say, because I actually have been frequenting Rosewood Beach especially, and I think I just want to commend the staff. It's a very difficult situation. I've been there at different times of day, early in the morning, midday, late in the day, and our staff is Brian accurately depicted being abused by the public, and they're dealing with a very difficult situation. I get tempers are short. I get there's issues with access and limitations down there, but this is a combustible situation, and I think if we need to devote more resources to mitigate the effect on our staff, I think we as a district need to step up and do that. Otherwise, I think that we would just give up and just shut it down, because I don't think we should be putting staff, whether it's college kids or more higher up supervisors, put them through some of the things that they're dealing with. And I'm very I'm upset about it. I really don't like to see our staff treated like this. And I think as a board, I think we need to make a statement. Either we commit the resources needed so that we can run these beaches without our staff being abused, or we just shut it down. We have to make a decision.
Thank you. Let's go to Terry.
Thank you, Cal.
Well, of course, I concur with what Commissioner Bernstein is saying. I've actually been asking at the past two meetings to have security down there. The ambassadors were just overloaded with things. I've seen it myself. I've been, I wouldn't say the victim, but the ambassadors have come up to me and had to deal with me. So, I mean, I get it, but I thought that we should have done security a long time ago. I'm glad we're moving in that direction now. We need somebody with authority down there without having to have to call the police every time something's happening. This latest thing about people dropping off people by sea, I mean, it's like we're being invaded. It's crazy. And then, add the vandalism that happened at Hidden Creek. And I just think people are going loony right now. And so we need to protect the investment that our community has made in us. And so let's get her done. I agree.
Thank you. Lori?
Thank you.
Yeah, I share in the disappointment. I am curious. Are other communities experiencing this kind of abuse? Is that just a standard thing, or?
Yeah,
Oh.
I definitely, in conversations with other districts, they're experiencing very similar. I know Mitch is very much in contact with some of the other communities as well. And, certainly he can comment if he wants, but I know there's been very similar in other communities.
I can.
Right, because my other thought, oh, Mitch, go ahead, please. I
Well,
want to.
I was just gonna, follow up with Brian because I have been in contact with several of our communities and he was mentioning, one of our communities to our south, Wilmette, has a beat, Gilson has a area that is typically traditionally available for residents and non-residents. You don't have to be a pass holder. And much like us, like at Park Avenue, how we're trying to handle a resident, non-resident access capability, it got to the point that Gilson was, they just couldn't manage all of the violations, the swimming where there's no swimming. And so it's such a large area that they did close that area off. It's still accessible to walk in and around that area, but you can't access the beach anymore. And they've really put their resources to the swimming beach. And then similar to us, you close one area and they have other areas. Their Elmwood Dunes location, which is very similar to a Millard, became overrun with the same issues. And so now they've closed that area off and again, have really just focused their resources around the swimming beaches. So it's very, very similar things happening in many other communities. And so I think, as other areas close, we might get a effect of that with more people now coming to areas that we have open. And as you all have said, we are doing the best we can and are, I think, facing the challenges. I did find out, through a security firm that I talked to today, that literally, as Brian said, Glencoe is looking at a similar security firm for mid-August, right when they're going to start to lose staff too. So I think our communities are thinking the same way and dealing with the same problems.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you for that update because as been noted, it's not only the staff abuse, which is unacceptable, but it also really, affects our residents' experience, the ones who are abiding by the rules, and they have to see, this happening and even watching our staff be treated that way. So I'm glad we're taking those steps. I agree. It's unacceptable, this kind of behavior from our residents and even outsiders. There's no way to tell, but either way, it's just not right. And I'm glad we're taking steps, and that it's unfortunate that it's happening to other communities, but I'm glad we're, like I said, taking steps. So thank you for that update, Mitch.
Brian Kaplan.
I'm listening to what everybody's saying. And
I'm laughing at the background you have showing the crowd.
well, it's a happy place, right? But it's we keep getting all these emails from residents complaining about non-residents. And then I'm sitting here learning that it's residents heaping the same abuse on our staff as well. And it's almost pathetic that we had to have Mitch Carr discuss having a security firm in order for us to keep our beaches open. And I will tell you is if we get to that point where we need security, then I say we close it. I mean, it's another needless expense. It's treating people with respect and dignity. If we can't do it, close it. But I don't want to harp on and repeat what everybody said. I'm disappointed to hear this report.
Well, I think, that is the ultimate that we would have to do. And Brian Romes and I were talking about the security guards. And initially we thought the Highland Park Police would be able to provide the assistance on a, off-duty police officer type basis. And
saying the same thing as if it's a security firm.
I realize that. And the thought is that we would implement having security as soon as possible, not wait till the kids go back to college. And if we still encounter significant problems, then we will have to close the beaches.
Can I jump in there? I'm just afraid, as you could see, as other beaches are closing around, more and more people, like Mitch was saying, are coming to our beaches. And I'm not going to just throw it out to just outsiders, but I'm afraid that if we shut it down, it might act like prohibition did in the 1930s, and people will find a way to do this, and it'll become even more unsafe. I would like to see if a hired security person can handle it, so we do offer this amenity before we reach that final decision. I think that's very dire.
Barney,
Go ahead.
Barney?
Go ahead, Cal.
I just want to make sure we're clear. When we use the word outsiders, we're meaning non-residents. We're not saying there's not something nefarious about it. I think we all mean that non-residents. There's issues both with residents and non-residents with regard to access to our beaches. I for one, I think we need to reach this consensus as a board tonight that we are giving Brian Romes the green light to use what resources he thinks is necessary in order to protect our staff, protect the users of the beach who are lawfully using this. It's an amenity. It's an amazing amenity. There's very few communities in the entire state that have amenities. One amenity, and we have 4 beaches. There's very few communities that even have 1 beach. And I think that I think closing them is the last resort. I'm willing to commit the resources, and I'm willing, as a consensus of the board, to do that and give Brian the green light with regard to that. But I think that if that doesn't work, then we may need to take a harsher approach. But hopefully it will, and hopefully we'll have some type of aura of authority down there, and that would try to help keep the order. And again, I would not be shy of calling the police either, because again, these are college kids. These are our supervisors. These are people that they don't deserve the amount of abuse they've been getting. And I get it was hot. I get it was 100 degrees last weekend, and tensions were short, and patience were short. But again, that's not an excuse for treating people the way people were being treated. So I'm for one is all for Brian. Do what you think is necessary.
I would say that is the consensus unless I hear otherwise. And that's the direction that when Brian and I were talking, that we would take these steps. Now that the board has heard the issues, it becomes even more sanctioned. And
I'd like the board to be apprised as would Brian or Barney take any steps on this topic. I don't want to find out 2 weeks later at a meeting. I'd like to know as things happen, what's going on.
well, but I think we have to have Brian has the authority to retain security guards. We need them now. We don't need them in August, but we need to start getting security guards.
Yes.
And I'd like to know when that happens. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
fine.
certainly keep you abreast of the situation.
I'll tell you, I'm against it. I think it's childlike that we need to do this.
I mean, I just also mentioned that area pools are starting to close because they're having issues, and I've been getting emails from other people with regard to that. So again, it could create more pressure on access to the beach as a result of that also.
Well, one of the things that is in our favor is that to have access to the beaches, at least 2 of them, you have to come. There are small roads leading to the beaches that can be closed off, and a security guard presence will be immensely helpful to steer traffic away from it. So I think the answer is, as we've been saying, is that Brian Romes will be retaining his security guards, and we'll have reports. If this continues, then we have to meet again and discuss and take an action.
And I think it's not just security guards. I think that Brian he has, for at least from my opinion, he has the green light to do what he thinks is necessary in order to preserve access to the beach for the community.
I'm not arguing that or disagreeing. I'm just saying I'd like the board to know via email as things occur, not as we get to a meeting on this issue.
It won't.
That's fine.
There will be updates.
Absolutely.
And I would
Absolutely.
ask too that it's the sooner the better. let's get moving on this. Like Cal says, we don't need to wait till mid-August, or let's get on it, see how quickly, because there's obviously an issue now. We foresee one with this information that pools are closing. Let's work fast on this.
Thank you.
Thing.
Yep,
There's
and-
one more thing I'd like to mention, Barney, is that, as more schools announce that they're going remote learning, both elementary, middle schools, high schools, and even colleges I'm getting word that colleges are going remote. I think that this issue may bleed into September, into middle to September, as long as we may have warm weather. So I just make sure staff is planning accordingly, that it's just not going to magically go away when schools were supposed to open, because this may be an issue come fall too.
Yeah, I think the traditional Labor Day termination of summer, I think is not going to occur this year. I think you're absolutely right. Let me also mention that we do have the emergency order that we did to limit access to Millard. And did we do the same thing, Brian, for Rosewood?
No, and we can't, just because of our OSLAD agreement.
For Rosewood, we have to. That's what I just wanted to say. Everyone's aware of that. But there may be an emergency carve out to that. But did we do the same thing for Park Avenue?
Yeah, we have not yet, obviously. We certainly have already been in touch with security firms, and we will implement this immediately, and hopefully this will help. And we are going to increase communication again this week. And I know the city's been very open to saying, listen, however we can get the word out, we will also message this through all of our communication means, newsletters, et cetera, and definitely support our efforts. So, and I will say, I very much appreciate, I know the staff does, the board's support on this as well.
Well, let's go to Mitch on the Recreation Center of Highland Park.
Thank you, Barney. I'll just give a quick update on some things that have changed a little bit at the Rec Center. So starting on last Friday, July 24th, the Rec Center went to a masks required at all times requirement, even with working out. So that guideline is something that's been adopted in the city of Chicago as a more stringent guideline, and something that we felt as though at this time we really should enforce. We have since we've done that, we've actually been, we keep a lot of daily communication going with a lot of the other park district recreation facilities, and we have started to notice that some facilities are moving in this direction as well. So overall, the response has been pretty positive. It's certainly taken some time for our users to get comfortable with using a mask while exercising, especially when you're doing like more heavy cardiovascular exercise. In advance of doing this, we did provide educational materials and tips on how to safely use a mask while exercising and how to pick a mask out. In addition, staff recently completed an educational video on welcoming patrons back to the Rec Center. This 6-minute video, which is going to be released soon, is really well put together. It's very well professionally developed, and stars our own fitness coordinator, Lauren Worthy, who highlights our changes and our enhancements to safety and cleaning protocols so that patrons can get a feel of comfort for coming back into the Rec Center before they actually set foot inside. So that should be coming out this week. Right now, usage at the Rec Center for indoors has been less than we originally anticipated. We're currently averaging right around 30 to 40 visits each day. So with this knowledge, temporarily, the Rec Center is actually going to reduce its hours and started this week reducing its fitness floor hours down to Monday to Thursday, 6 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And then in the evenings from 4 to 7 p.m. On Friday and Saturday, it will just be the morning hour of 6 a.m. to 10:30. And for right now, we'll be closed on Sundays. Online reservations are still required, but you're basically reserving that large time slot. So 6 a.m. to 10:30 as the time slot that you're coming instead of a 90-minute window. while the indoor has been utilization has been lower than anticipated, our outdoor utilization has been much better and very consistent. So this is where we're, certainly putting a lot more resources right now. We, certainly the numbers show that people right now aren't as comfortable indoors. And they're also telling us that they're just not ready to come indoors. So we're offering 4 to 7 classes per day, depending on the day outdoors. We have plans to continue our outdoor fitness as long as we can into the fall, basically as long as the weather and the light outside allows us to do so. We're looking to expand some programming at Sunset Woods to offer some programming for some seniors outdoors, as well as a class that would also incorporate some basic for 1 hour, but some basic child care for a 2 and 3 year old, so that parents with children that age could come, take a class and have child care for an hour. We are monitoring all of the revenue and expenses on a weekly basis, and we'll be sharing our July numbers with the finance committee next week, as well as some future projections. And one other quick update with regard to the rec center is the indoor pool. I know in our weekly report, we stated that our shell replacement for the indoor pool is almost completed. Well, it is now officially completed. Staff is now working on cleaning and disinfecting that entire area, and we'll start filling the pool, treating the pool, chemically treating the pool, and then heating the pool. We're also working on an open lap swim procedure. So there will be some type of procedure that we're going to put in place. There's only so many lanes, of course, when we do lap swim. We'll have to have staggered time so that people will have places to change and take a shower prior to going into the pool, and a registration system, and including a cleaning protocol and a staffing plan. So right now we have a tentative goal to open the pool on August 10th. That we do have other hurdles, which is that all of our aquatic staff, as we just talked about, the resources are really dedicated to the lakefront right now. So we may have to push that back to August 17th if we don't have the staff available. But if we can staff it, we think we could have a plan ready and in place by August 10th to open the indoor pool. And that's the update.
Well, let's ask commissioners for questions or comments. We'll start with Cal.
Again, I've a broken record about this. Is that there's a good segment of our citizens who need that indoor pool for working out. They're disabled. This is their only thing that they could do to exercise. So the sooner and better on that indoor pool. That being said, as a lap swimmer, I've been swimming in the lake, and it is just outstanding. Let me just say it. And thank you very much for providing that amenity, because there are people there at 7 o'clock when the lifeguard goes up in the chair out there in the swimming cove, swimming laps, and it's the water temperature has been great, and I think it's been well received. So it's kudos to the staff for coming up with that.
Terry?
No, I was just glad to hear the update on reducing the hours. I mean, I don't know what it costs to fire up that building every day, not to mention to clean it after, but if we're only having 30 or 40 people, I think it's a very wise decision to reduce those hours. So I want to applaud the staff for that recommendation.
Lori?
I actually heard from a resident that I bumped into, and she said she used to play tennis with me, and she said, hey, you guys are doing great at the Park District. She said she is taking the spin classes Saturday mornings very early, and she's just really happy to have that option, because she said she wouldn't have spun if it was indoors. So I'm glad we're finding ways to still offer some of our programming, even with limitations. So I know it's very much appreciated.
Good to hear. Brian Kaplan?
Well, as someone who's using the rec center almost daily, and I've taken some of the outdoor classes, I can only give so many kudos to our staff for as clean and orderly as it's been kept. I feel safe. There's someone cleaning after everybody. Users are following the rules. It's great. I wish you guys would all take advantage of it.
I just want to ask a question as to what we perceive as the usage of the pool. We haven't seen gangbuster usage of the gym, and there's an inherent expense to operate the pool. I would be very reluctant to side with the idea of opening it if we had such a few users that it becomes a special swim club. And I know that there's people on the board who are very anxious to have the pool open, and there's obviously people in the community, and there are reasons to do it. But again, we have to be thoughtful of the use and the expense that's associated with it. So
Well,
I would love to see a survey, if we could, to find out if there's really a demand.
I think we'll know if there's a demand when it's open and see if people start using it.
Well, yes, but there's a big
Until that
expense.
happens, this is a conversation that's not worth having. We
My
have,
suggestion, we're going to talk about this next week at the finance committee, and we're going to talk about this more in depth. So, let's do that in the context of having more information at our hands.
Yes, and that's why I asked if we could possibly do a survey of an online survey and ask people for their interest.
I don't think we're going to get that done between now and next Thursday when our meeting is.
I don't know.
I do think it's important to justify the spending. If we know this is a positive thing and we know there's people who want and need it, we'll get that, because it is really hard to justify this kind of spending without having any information other than our own opinions or a handful of people that we know. So, like I said,
I will tell you this. I will tell you, Murphy, I apologize. No, I would say as a lap swimmer, that indoor pool is used a lot. Now, luckily we have an alternative, because I'm swimming in the lake right now and there's people swimming in the lake, but it's going to get pretty cold pretty quickly. And, whether it's August 17th or September 7th or whatever that date is, I mean, that is our aquatics. If you look at the numbers aquatically before the COVID thing happened, are very strong. And again, we don't know how that's going to impact the COVID. Obviously, there's only going to be one person per lane, unlike currently where you can have multiple people in lanes. So it's going to be a new reality down there. But again, I want to emphasize a lot of our disabled population, this is their only mean of exercise is the pool, and especially the indoor pool, because during a normal times when we have Hidden Creek open, and a lot of lap swimming is being done outside, the indoor pool remains open, and it does provide a facility for the disabled population to exercise. And I think as a district who has a special rec fund, I think it's important that element of our community is served.
Cal, your point is a good point, but again, and I really urge that we make an attempt to have an online, just communicate to all the members of the rec center and ask, is anybody interested in the pool? And if we get a good response, that'll help us. If we get a response that is wishy-washy, it's things that we can then evaluate carefully, as opposed to spending a lot of money to fill, heat, and get the pool ready. And if we have 3 users, it's really not, we're going to be embarrassed. That's my only point with that.
So Barney, what's a lot of money? What's the amount?
what
We don't
about,
know the amount. I don't know what a lot of money means. I don't know what season closure means, and I don't know what a lot of money means.
I think our staff can provide us with that information at the finance committee, and
Let's
we will
have that
ask for
discussion then. Let's have that discussion then.
But we need, that's fine, discussion, but I think we need to have the survey so we know what type of user base that we're going to be providing this facility for.
Well, can I jump in? And I'm actually kind of straddling both sides right now. If you're talking about a survey, if you get, professional people that send out surveys, if they get 10% response, that's a good thing. So you would have to take that into consideration, because if you're looking at just a tepid response to it, it could just simply that people are not online, or people are not engaged, or people just don't like to do surveys. It's hard in a very short period of time to gauge interest in that way. I am sympathetic, though, to the financial impact. It seems like it feels like in reading the emails Brian Rome's Friday update when he talked about the pool, because my wife asked me about it, because she is also missing the lap swimming. I read it very thoroughly because I didn't know exactly what the plan is. Maybe Brian or Mitch, somebody could fill us in exactly. Like I heard that they were going to fill the pool this week and heat it. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So we're kind of out of time because they did all the patching, they did all these repairs and then they found some new things that had to be patched up. But then it was full steam ahead this week, if I don't get it wrong. So what else am I missing, Mitch?
No, that's correct. Our plan right now would be to go ahead and fill it and treat it. I mean, if we decided to, not open it, what we would do is we wouldn't run the ventilation system and we wouldn't heat it, which we'd stop using energy and the pool would just kind of sit there. So there will always be a cost for us to fill it. It's just the maintaining of it would then stop. I will say, when we get to September, part of our plans are trying to operate even if it's limited, a learn to swim option. So that is right now planned, and we'll know there, as soon as we start getting registration, if people are interested in coming back for learn to swim. Now that would be obviously more afternoon and evening programs, and at that point, if we're running that, then we might as well run morning lap swim to see what type of interest there is. I think right now what we've seen so far, whether it's with camp or with indoor rec center, we really truly aren't getting a good feel until we actually do it, and really it's more of people might say, yeah, I probably will come, or maybe I won't. But I think we've seen so far, I think camp was our biggest testament, was once we did open it up, we got lower numbers than we anticipated.
Who does the surveying for the district? How long does it take to do an accurate, the survey where we can rely on data? Can that be done in less than a week?
So we can always send out a Survey Monkey. It's not a statistically valid survey. It would just be, a survey that similar to our program evaluations. So we can, it gives us a feel. And as Mitch was saying, it's not necessarily, always accurate, but it's something we can do relatively easy. It's just a matter of how much weight do we put on the response.
Well, how long does it take?
Liz, I don't know if you could speak to it. I know you usually go out of the communications department.
Sure, we could turn a survey around in a day.
But how long does it take to get results from people? I mean, yeah, you could send a survey out, but how long do you generally leave it out there to get results that you can use as a data point?
We typically get about 90% of our responses in the first week, and we typically keep a survey out for 2 weeks.
My suggestion, Barney, is one or two things. If you want to do a survey, that's fine. Let's push the finance committee meeting out 3 weeks so we can get the survey results. Otherwise, let's have the meeting next week, and the survey will stay open for 2 weeks so we can get the information.
So I have some new thoughts on this, if I may. So Cal, you brought up an excellent point that regardless of who's using it now, it's going to gain more popularity as the weather gets colder and people stop swimming in the lake. But my concern now is with the disabled people that you're speaking of. How and can we give them priority to our pool? Because
we do, actually.
We do. Okay, so how would this work when people, like you said, we have more people using the pool? How does that work?
Well, my understanding, and Mitch can speak to this more directly, my understanding is that it's going to be like it's like court time for tennis, is that you're going to have to reserve a lane. It's going to be one person per lane. And there's areas in the pool that allows disabled people to get in and actually use the lane.
Yes, that's correct. We would have to go to a reservation system so people would have advanced opportunity to reserve their lane.
Like there's a gentleman there every single morning. He's a stroke victim, and he's there with his caregiver. When the caregiver, and I'm sure Mitch knows exactly who I'm talking about, and he's there every morning and he's about 45 minutes to an hour. And that it is a caregiver puts him in the water. That's his entire ability to exercise is at 45 minutes in the morning. You can't put a value on that.
No, but we also can't put a value on the total usage unless we do both a survey and fill the pool. From what I'm hearing, filling the pool is something that we can do, and we could put it on the shelf if we had to. So what I'd like to see is, unless there's a disagreement, is that we get a survey out. We have as much results as we can get at the finance committee, but we also have the numbers of what it costs to open the pool and run the pool at the finance committee meeting.
Let's push the finance committee out 2 weeks so we can get some
No.
legitimate numbers.
No, I don't think so. I think we will get some indication, but the fact is, if it costs, X dollars to fill the pool and to heat it, and it's a sunk cost, because if we fill the pool now or we fill the pool in 6 months from now, it might not make any difference. It's going to cost the same, and the water can sit there. Then I think we should just proceed as we are doing, but have the meeting and get as many numbers as the staff can provide to us. And let's see what we can get back on a survey. It's just a preliminary touch-based survey.
I've said my piece.
Yeah, I like that thinking, Barney, that we may find, hopefully we will, that it doesn't cost us any more to keep the water going now and later. So I would like to see those numbers, and hopefully that's the case.
I don't see any harm in doing it then, unless there's, other Cal. I think you've said it's okay. We'll do it that way. We'll still have the meeting. We'll have as many numbers as we can. And again,
I would prefer
evaluate.
I prefer if you're going to do a survey that we postpone the finance committee so we can have some numbers so it's worthless to me. If we get preliminary numbers, those numbers are worthless to me. So let's push the finance committee meeting out another week, and then we'll have some real numbers then. That's what you want to do.
We can do that, but I think we also have to spend some time talking about the rec center and its operations, and that was going to be done at the finance committee.
Well, it's Barney. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either we push everything out, and we push everything out, and so we can get the numbers that you're looking for, some results from that survey, or I think the survey is worthless.
How will postponing the meeting by another week impact the rec center? Because that's not what we're trying to do here. We're just simply trying to address the pool situation.
Well, then we just take the pool off the agenda for the rec center, for the finance committee next week, and we'll put it to the next meeting after that.
I'm not sure what you just said, Cal.
I would say if then we just table any discussion regarding the pool until we get results back from the survey.
Well, but again, see, I disagree with you, and I think we should have the meeting, and we may not come to a conclusion about the pool, and it might be a second meeting that we have, but I think we should just continue with the schedule we have. There's other things that have to be discussed at the finance committee.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's what Cal's saying. Isn't that what you're saying, Cal?
Yeah, I'm saying that. That's it.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what information's available, and if it's incomplete, we'll just table discussion about this pool, and we'll just move ahead with the other items on the agenda. It's a full agenda.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. We were saying, I think I didn't realize we were saying it in the same way with different words, but that's fine.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, Mitch, thank you.
Thank you.
August programs, fall programs.
Yeah. Chris.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. A few updates about our recreational programming offerings. Tomorrow marks the release of what we're calling our August brochure. It may be confusing to some, seeing as though August is just a few days away. However, I do want to remind the board that in our July brochure, we did highlight and implement several programs to a significant degree through the second week of August, which coincides with the end of our Camp Hometown. So staff thought it prudent to put forth 2 weeks worth of programs, in some cases longer than the 2 weeks, but in most cases, those last 2 weeks of August to help families fulfill their recreational needs as they transition into the school season. So some of the highlights within the August program guide will be the continuation of our mini camps, our athletic leagues, and recreational programming. Some of the new offerings and what seems to be of most popularity was our safety village, which initially had 4 of the 5 offerings sold out, and staff is working diligently to offer more within those last few weeks of August, as well as some new recreational programmings in theater and dance. August 10th will mark the release of what is our traditional fall brochure, and upon discussion with staff, we had made the decision to forego what has been our monthly brochure offerings and put forth the traditional September through December. What residents will see in some varying degrees is a change in how programs are offered. It was impressed upon staff, upon significant discussion, as best as possible to offer, in many cases, a fall 1 and fall 2 session. Some areas such as tennis, ice skating, and others do traditionally do that. However, as has been discussed several times throughout tonight's meeting, the need for outside programming, people's comfort level is greater when partaking in the recreational needs outside. So as best as possible, come August 10th, residents will see that some fall 1 sessions, while in years past would have been indoors, will now be outdoors. Tennis comes to light, continuation of outdoor fitness, and the list goes on and on. So we've been very excited to see as many smiling faces back in our facilities and parks utilizing our services. And we fully expect that with the implementation of our August brochure, as well as our fall brochure, we'll continue to provide services that meet the needs of our community. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Chris, I do have a question about kids ice hockey.
Mhm.
Are there rules being implemented that you know about to make it, besides not having the parents there, to make it safe for the kids?
Yeah, so staff at Centennial, as well as myself, have met and have had significant communication with our 2 main user groups, the Falcons Hockey Association and the Highland Park Giants Hockey Club, to develop a logistical plan from entry, the utilization of the ice, the conduct amongst the benches, and exiting the facility. We feel as if we have a solid plan in place with cooperation and agreement from the Falcons and Giants. We've also received guidance from the United States Rink Association on best practices in light of COVID-19. And there will be further mitigation strategies and I think suggestions that will come about as the facility reopens on September 7th or 8th, pending project completion and ice installation. But we've had full cooperation with our user groups, and we fully expect that to continue as we begin the open.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Chris? Cal?
No, I have no questions.
Terry?
No.
Lori?
No.
Brian?
Nice job, Chris.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a
So
good night.
thank you, Chris. We'll move to new business and we start with Commissioner Grossberg.
Yes, hi, I'm here to report on the foundation. There were actually a couple different things that happened in the interim. They have broken up into subcommittees. There's 4 different subcommittees. And after the major meeting, I actually attended a subcommittee meeting for the fundraising committee last night. So I can give you some details about the main meeting and then some about the subcommittee. And then I have kind of a statement about the whole thing. They did report on the income taken from the Firecracker 5K, the virtual. They netted approximately $2,500 after $820 in expenses. So basically for almost no money, they were able to raise a couple grand. So virtual fundraisers are probably going to become, the norm around town or around the country. in the meantime. We are starting to talk about an annual appeal where we appeal directly to our residents here in Highland Park, and we're looking at different levels, like a 50, 100, and what to name them, 250, 1,000, et cetera. And then what, and then attaching it to what it actually would pay for. So if somebody donated $50, that would actually get somebody one swim lesson. Or if somebody donated $100, that'd actually get somebody 2 free weeks at camp that couldn't afford it otherwise. So we're trying to go, other communities like Lake Forest, they've had great success doing things like that. And we're also in communication with Liz and with Brian Romes over what the Park District can legally offer as incentives for people who do go ahead and give to this appeal. So we're working out the details of that. We're talking about instead of the Champions Banquet, we're talking maybe there might be a way to do a golf tournament. So again, these are sort of in early stages. There's a live foundation website that I've been telling you about. It looks great. It's PFHP, so Parks Foundation, HPIL.org. And we really want the board to go in and explore it and give us your give us your opinions. So if you could do that, that would be great. We have a marketing committee who does just great work. We have some just really dynamite people. There has been a video slideshow about Smile that's been updated, and we'll be on a loop, and they'll be on the movie nights that we show at the drive-in movie nights. We have a governance committee, and they've been keeping everybody in order, and everybody knows how to kind of do that. And then last night at the fundraising meeting, we talked about the role of our board, that is the 5 of us, and how we need to start using our influence. If we want to have a foundation, if we feel it is an important part of what we do, then we need to invest more time and energy in it and get the people, our contacts involved. So after we develop some of these ideas and after we get the marketing together on it, we would really like it if the 5 of us could jump in with both feet and work your contacts, because we have many, many projects, both supporting the Park District, helping with our Smile campaign, helping with FYI, which that's the swim program so far that helps out kids, not just in Highland Park, but anybody that's in our school system. And, other outreach sort of things that we can do as a foundation. We would really need the support of the board and your contacts. So I'm throwing that out now so that that foundation can remain viable. I mean, we don't have tons and tons of money, and people right now, there are honestly more pressing needs. People need to eat, people need to know where, but recreation is huge too. If you're stuck inside all day and you can't afford to go wherever, that's where the foundation comes in. So that's my spiel.
That's very good. Thank you, Terry. Are there any questions for Terry?
No, thank you for doing that, Terry.
Okay.
All right. So Brian Romes, your director's report.
Thank you. Yeah, just a few things to update the board and community on. The first one is that the Park District was randomly selected this week for a virtual IMRF audit to take place. It has begun and will continue through August 25th. Employer audits obviously are considered best practice for public pension funds. Audits help ensure employers avoid liability by inadvertently violating employee pension rights. So this audit will specifically ensure individuals are properly enrolled in IMRF It will review the earnings and contributions that we report to IMRF. It will ensure these earnings and contributions are in compliance with the Illinois Pension Code. Again, we were randomly selected for this audit, which does happen to many park districts, obviously, throughout the state. And our Human Resources Department, led by Donna Dunn, will be working with the auditors on this. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Cal,
I have nothing.
Terry?
I think we seem uniquely in a unique position to do well with something like this. So
Yeah.
let them at it.
Yeah.
Lori?
No questions.
Brian Kaplan?
No questions.
Excellent.
Okay. Just a few more updates. I wanted to share that we've, now that our recreation center is open and we've established some hours and process for signing up, the board had made this recommendation earlier in the summer that when we did open, that we reach out to North Shore University, to the health system, to the hospital here in Highland Park, and we provide them those employees who have obviously been on the front line here, working very hard to with patients and to work with the COVID-19 and contain it and keep people healthy. So we are offering them free access to our recreation center for the month of August, at the very least. And Mitch has already had communication with employees there. And so they have a special code they can use to use our facility at no charge. And it's, as we mentioned, very, very safe and sanitized in there. So hopefully they will take advantage of it.
Great.
Last couple things.
Excuse me, Brian?
Yeah,
Because of the code, we'll be able to see how many people take advantage of this?
absolutely.
Great.
Yes. Okay. And I am very excited to announce that we've sort of returned to doing some special events for the community. The first of which was last Thursday was a drive-in movie. So kind of old-fashioned drive-in movie style where you pull up your car and watch the movie from there. So we were sold out on our very first movie with 30 groups. They were able to enjoy Angels in the Outfield. And we have received some sponsors for these movies as well. Judy's Pizza, for example, was offering order pizza deliveries to the drive-in movie as well. So we have 3 more of these planned for August through October. August 6th is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. August 20th is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And I believe it's October 6th is Hocus Pocus. So registration, we did end up adding some spots. They all sold out right away. So we were able to add spots. Staff, after viewing last week, determined we could add some cars. But at any rate, it's $20 for a family to go spend time together watching a feature film in the Recreation Center parking lot on the large screen. And last of all, tomorrow begins the North Shore Amateur Tournament at the Sunset Valley Golf Club. It'll continue through Thursday, July 30th. This tournament has been well known across the Chicagoland area since 1956, where thousands of Chicagoland's greatest amateur golfers have competed. So we have 122 golfers participating this year amongst 3 different divisions, including the championship division, the open division, and a women's division. So we're very excited about that. I know the golf team has been working very hard at preparing the course and preparing for this outing. So it's exciting, and that begins tomorrow. And that's all I have to report. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, are there spectators allowed at the tournament?
Ryan, are you still on the phone? I believe there is. Obviously, they have to maintain social distance and wear masks, but Ryan?
Yes, you can. Spectators are welcome.
When is the first tea time?
7 a.m.
And then when does that go through?
1:50. So every 10 minutes.
And it's a 2-day tournament?
2-day tournament. So
I-
like tomorrow or Thursday, the leaders will tee off last. So they'll be the
Right.
finishing group.
Now, does everybody who's in on Wednesday get to compete on Thursday?
Yes.
Terry, I asked Cole actually this morning, if you want to come see the leaders finish up, if you get to Sunset around between 5 and 6, they should be finishing up between 5:30 and 6:30. So the winner will be crowned right around then. So if you want to see like the end of a golf tournament, show up like after 5 o'clock on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually going to be there. I may be one of those leaders.
Whoa.
Oh.
We're going to have a community board event if that's the case, Terry.
Yeah, I'm putting $2 down on Terry.
Yeah, and I'm donating all the winnings back to the foundation.
Is there, do we have any other,
Yeah, Barney?
anything else? Yes, go ahead, Cal.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. It's with the whole COVID thing, it's been discouraging. But over the last couple of weeks, I've heard some really positive things about the Park District. I wanted to share with everybody, and this really goes to what we talk about with the wow factor. And I've heard about 4 or 5 different wow things over the last 2 weeks, and I wanted to share those with you. Number one is that I'm hearing from parents, and I'm now getting old, so I don't have kids these age, but I'm hearing wows for the baseball program and how well that's going this summer, and the fact that it's actually operating, and kids are having a great time, parents are having a good time, and I think this is just happy to do it. So again, I know it took a Herculean act to get the program up and running, but a big wow to that. Another wow, and Brian, you brought that up, is the drive-in theaters. I've been getting emails, people saying, wow, I didn't know about it. I wish I could do this. I mean, what a great idea. And whoever came up with it within the staff, I think, again, that's thinking out of the box, trying to make, lemonades out of lemon. And another wow there. The Sunset Valley, I was talking to Ryan this morning. Ryan, I hope I don't bust your bubble on this, but we're having a record July after a record June. And that really is a testament to the staff we have going out there, and also to this board for having the vision to follow through and renovating the course, because we're attracting people from all over. And the feedback I'm getting on Sunset Valley is that why can't, there's not enough tee times. I wish, it's hard for me to get on the course. So it's in very high demand. And lastly, and Barney and Lori and Brian has been on the board long enough with me to know this, is that I was never a lakefront guy. And this COVID has forced me down to Rosewood Beach and other places. And every time I go down there, I'm wowed at all of our beaches. And again, that's a testament to the staff for maintaining it and providing that amenity, and also to this board for committing to making those facilities possible. So a lot of wows. And so I want to end the meeting on a good note, and those are all good things.
Well, that's very nice, Cal. And let me point out, by the way, that the sand replenishment has held and has made a huge difference. It's provided a beach at Rosewood this year.
Yeah, and I echo that. Thank you so much for those comments. I know staff appreciate it and appreciate your support. So thank you.
All right.
I can actually, and I'd like to speak to the tennis camps we have. Cal, I still have one last kid going through the programs. And when the tennis mini camp started, we were actually waitlisted and didn't get into one of the programs because of the popularity. And then I spoke with Brian and he spoke with staff, and I said, hey, it's very frustrating as a parent because we're really looking for something for our children to do. So when fortunately it's our sport, I know golfing camp too, I said, we really want to get them out there. So the staff did a great job of accommodating everyone on the wait list, opened up extra classes, and I can't tell you how wonderful it is for my son to be playing tennis 5 days a week, 1 to 4 o'clock. It's well managed. There's no social distancing issues. And I know I can't be alone, and just being grateful for an activity. Like I said, when we were, locked out of a class, I really thought, oh no, what am I going to do? So for parents to have that opportunity, I know makes a big difference. Again, in a day and age where we're trying to keep kids off of technology, and now you have COVID, it was wonderful to have a structured program. So I do thank the staff and Brian Romes for really hearing me out, because I do speak for a small population of, tennis, but definitely as a parent, and just the frustration and trying to find something safe that I'm comfortable with for my kids to do.
Thank
That's-
you, Lori. We
That's
appreciate
great to
that.
hear. Great to hear. Is there any other comments or thoughts from the commissioners?
I just had one little thing because I kind of forgot it in my foundation report. And I would really love it if we as commissioners can also picture, be it a facility, be it a park, be it a beach, a way for the board to partner with the foundation, so that, we can actually become partners in this. So if it's we sell the honey, at the honey at Heller, or it's the express, the train, or whatever like that. Think about the foundation. Think about when we sell out right away, do we have spots for our foundation people? Things like that. I just want you to be cognizant that there's a whole community out there, and we are even in these COVID days, we are rich and are bathed in abundance in some ways. And how can we partner with our foundation to make sure that everybody gets to enjoy these gifts? That's it.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Well, if there's no other comments or questions, I don't believe there's a reason to have a closed session. Is there anybody on the board who feels we should have a closed session? Or Brian, do we need a closed session?
No.
All
Move
right,
to adjourn.
then I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All right, it was a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye, the meeting is adjourned at 7:44 PM.
All right, everyone stay safe.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.